Okay, so good morning everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'm Peter Backman and I'm going to ask Gavin Smith to introduce himself in a minute. Basically, I'm the founder of a company called the Delivery.world, which is all about restaurant delivery in the global context, what it means, where it's going, who's doing well, why they're doing well, all that sort of thing. I have a weekly newsletter. I also run a weekly newsletter just in the UK restaurant market. I have a podcast, and Gavin featured on the most recent edition of the podcast earlier this month, so listen to the Delivery Profits. So that's basically me. Gavin, you're far more interesting.
Oh, thank you. Morning, everybody. Can you all hear me? Yeah. If you shout. Is that any better? A bit better? So hi, I'm Gavin Smith. I am Managing Director of a pizza business called Pizza Pilgrims. Hopefully you will all have heard of us and had a wonderful experience. This space is very interesting to me as technology takes a bit of a grip into what we do and helps shape some of the decisions we make. My background is, I'm actually a chef by trade. Spent many years working for a PLC, some time at Oaxaca, if you know Oaxaca, in the last 6 years with Pizza Pilgrims, as I guess we've gone from a small to a medium-sized restaurant business. So that's me. Nice to meet you all.
So thank you. So I've got a question for you to start off with so that we know who we're actually talking to. So I'd like you to put your hand up in answer to one of three questions. The first question is, put your hand up if you are in the restaurant business. The second question is, put your hand up if you're in the tech business, but with some involvement with restaurants. And the third question is, very little or no involvement in the restaurant business, but probably in the tech business. So the first question is, are you in the restaurant business? Okay, yeah. Are you in the tech business with some involvement with restaurants? Okay, so the rest of you have very little or no involvement in the restaurant business. Am I correct? Fine. Okay, that's very good. So I can start off with one or two useful comments, hopefully useful for you, about the restaurant business and tech. And excuse me while I read my notes here. So restaurants are effectively people-centric businesses. Some people think they sell food, but I think it's all about people. So customers are the be-all and the end-all of the restaurant sector. And that means that the restaurant business attracts people who are not tech-minded because they are people-minded. So historically, the only significant tech element in the restaurant business has been POS. That was probably the limit of technology in the restaurant business. And I even know one restaurant business that's going to have its fax machine installed shortly. So that tells you how advanced it is. So that is by way of introduction to how we are going to talk about the restaurant industry and tech. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we're probably, as an industry, many years behind retail. And there's a number of reasons for that, but as a restaurateur, I think hospitality is the heart of everything we do. Like Peter rightly says, our team really are our first customer, and then they should look after our customers. Anything that can enable that to be better, maybe understand more about our customers, how we get last mile logistics better to get food to customers, that's really proliferated over the last 10 years. And for a restaurateur who's not perhaps an expert like you guys here today, it can be quite overwhelming to understand not only the relevance of the tech and the software that's come about, but how do you choose which one? Because they all sound great to a restaurateur. So it's how you navigate that really that's difficult, and in a way that enables your teams to deliver better hospitality. I think it's fair to say.
And I would add to that restaurant delivery, which has been around in its current form for about 10 years or so, is actually a tech business or a last mile delivery business. And both of those concepts are very difficult for restaurants to get their minds around.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've had conversations about this before, but we all know Deliveroo, Just Eat, Uber Eats, all do what they do very well, I guess with different strategic approaches, but pre-COVID, it was certainly incremental revenue for a restaurant. There was very few dark kitchens. Those people who were doing that were really probably struggling to turn a profit. They were learning a lot. But to a restaurant who is leasing quite expensive rented spaces on high streets across the country, to then just turn on delivery, service some additional customers, and probably your existing customers who then want that for us pizza at home, it was incremental revenue. You didn't really consider too much the costs. And actually the volume was such that operationally it was easier to fulfill than it is today. What changed in COVID, I think it just pushed the industry forward 10 years. Everybody wanted delivery, everybody wanted at home, and then post-COVID, everybody understands it, everybody uses it, but people want more value, there's a lot more choice, there's 3 players really vying for a competitive advantage. So how a restaurateur stands out in that space has become ever more complicated, and the volumes, how you manage that volume from an eat-in perspective alongside a delivery channel can be really, really complicated, and it can ultimately damage your eating experience if you're not careful. But you can design restaurants differently. You know, we have a site in Lower Marsh, which will be the first one. We really took that challenge on about 4 years ago and said, let's have a separate entrance for the riders, let's have a separate pass. That's difficult in this country, right? We rent space that we can get, and property is difficult to find, it's difficult to get when you're in a competitive position. So if we were in the US or North America, it's easy to go, that's our footprint, we want 8,000 square feet, and we're not going to move on the shape and size of it. It doesn't quite work like that here. So, and I think the second bit to that is the partners, the 3 partners that I've talked about. They've all got different, I think, you know, if you look at Uber Eats today, it's about market share in that space. Deliveroo are a little bit more involved. They're a smaller global player, to be very clear, but they're leaning more into experience, quality and value. And you could talk for an hour about exactly what that means to them. But what's great, I think, is that each of the 3 protagonists now have a very clear a strategy they're executing against. And then for partners like us, it's about, are we partnered with the right one? And then for others who you will know out there, specifically in the QSR space, so your Five Guys, your Burger Kings, they're in a multi-platform approach. So they're really, it's easier for them to service high amounts of volume, and actually it's more about revenue than it is about quality. It's not fair to say they're not focused on quality, because they are, but it's a lot easier to deliver 100% increase in hamburgers than it is for us when we've got a dining room full of 100 guests. So it's really quite complicated, and it's ever changing, and I've always looked to this audience to say, how can we make your life easier? And there's so much out there. It is an assault on the senses, to be honest, about how do we make that easier for our teams rather than just making it one more task. A great example would be with Deliveroo, we integrate the Deliveroo platform into our zonal contracts POS system. It's fully integrated, so you order and it goes right through to the kitchen. If we were to move to another partner and it's not integrated, we'll have a tablet. The manager then has to accept the order, put that through the POS system, and you add another 15, 20 seconds to every order. That slows the restaurant down. So all of these things in isolation look great, but actually we've got to think, most importantly, we've got 45 to 50 minutes with a customer eat in. How do we make sure that experience is such that they leave happier than when they arrive? And how delivery interacts with that can be quite challenging. I said a lot there, but
and it strikes me as well is the sheer sort of physical complexity. So you've got a kitchen. Kitchen's a very busy place for a lot of the time. People have their own tasks. Things break down. Customers want to order special things. So it's go go go. And along comes this new technology, which requires, if you've got 3 platforms, then you've got to have 3 iPads, and you've probably got another one because you may be doing it yourself. So that's 3 additional physical bits that sit in the kitchen, and get fat splattered and all that sort of thing. And the technology then needs to link up.
The reporting
and one of the problems, it strikes me, for the restaurant business, and it goes back to my earlier point about it being a people business, that the people running it on a day-to-day fat splattering go basis aren't necessarily the people who can deal with technical issues as they arise, and that becomes just an everyday challenge.
Absolutely, and look, we all use a banking app, but we wouldn't expect to fix it if it broke. We would absolutely think that's someone else's job, and I think you've got to remember we deal with a lot of young people, a lot of people who don't have massive amounts of expertise in this area. That is changing. You know, our younger team members certainly demand more tech. So we use a system called Rota Ready for payroll, and it's a more intelligent system than the one before, in that you can talk in real time. A team member can swap a shift with a team member who's not in today, so long as the manager signs it off. That can happen very, very quickly. We use Facebook Workplace and Work Chat for our internal comms, which has been excellent, albeit they're sunsetting that product in about 9 months. But our younger team members really, really do embrace technology. I mean, they've grown up with Amazon and Uber and the like. So it's really about how we, as leaders of businesses who are we're a bit ancient, lean on you guys to say, whether it's the delivery market, which is an obvious example, or POS, I look more to, how the payment, we've been through 4 or 5 different variations of how people pay physically, software, the gateway providers over the last 5 years. But ultimately what you want is an Apple end-to-end solution. I mean, it would be great if you had one perfectly sized piece of kit that displayed the menu perfectly, that was easy but not too big, but you could order, you could pay, you could email, and that's coming. But largely, as you will have seen in the restaurants and pubs that you go to, if you go to a Wetherspoons, they were one of the first to have the order and pay. And look, whilst it's effective, we get our drinks to the table, right? I would question whether or not it loses something. There is no service, and the app doesn't tell them to clear the table. So we're really trying to think about technology to enhance that hospitality experience. And that can be a barrier when we're talking to tech partners. And I don't know if you know of StoreKit, pretty damn good tech provider who build order and pay solutions. We did a trial with them, and actually the tech is some of the best I've seen, but we did not want to host, greet, seat, or take the order using technology. So they're like, okay. So we were paying for a solution that was, my analogy at the time was, we purchased a Ferrari to drive to the corner shop. It was brilliant, but we would take the order and we would welcome you and hopefully remember your face and make a recommendation, and then say, look, here's a disc, here's a QR code. If you'd like to order anything else or pay in a rush, please use this, thanks very much. But if you just want to work, or me to serve you, then that's also okay. Whereas if you look more to McDonald's, who were probably the trailblazers with screens, or Leon latterly with screens, probably works for that customer journey, that occasion, that experience. But full dining restaurants, I think we need to be very, very careful. I don't think people leave the house to go and spend 12, 14 pounds on a pizza or 20 pounds on a roast dinner when they can make it at home for half the price. I think they expect a level of hospitality alongside very good food quality and a great ambience. So it's about tech enabling the customer journey, and it's about really you guys educating us a little bit on what's possible, because we're not brilliant with it. And some of the legacy POS providers have been the biggest barriers really, and we work with one of them, with Comtrex Zonal, but getting API or any form of integration to their system is really important from a reporting point of view. So it can be less than easy sometimes for some of the young, I don't know who's in the room, but some of the people who are developing the really, really new, interesting, innovative tech that will help our guest experience or our payment provision or how we get sentiment, NPS, that kind of thing, but it won't integrate. So therefore we end up using a substandard service simply to get the integrations right. And I think that's changing with the proliferation of the cloud-based POS providers who are saying, look, we're not trying to do everything like maybe an Access Group do, and I'm sure they do that very well, but we've got a hub, and you can pin on everything to that. I think restaurants need that because we're moving quickly as well. So yeah, it's fascinating to me, and I guess I'm most focused on the team and the guest experience, but behind the scenes, how that interacts with our food team, interacts with our marketing team, interacts with our finance team. There is so much out there. I mean, this year alone, we're bringing in 3 or 4 new pieces of technology, and just the comms of that to our business is complicated, and again taken away from potentially what could be a better guest experience.
And added to that, which is not so immediately obvious to the restaurant, of course, is the rider, because that's the other missing piece in the whole thing. And so technology has to communicate, or has to be the means of communicating with the rider, recruiting the rider, getting the rider in place to take the order out of the store, the rider going to wherever he or she has to go. All of that needs to be managed as in addition to all this other bit that's going on. And it's
true.
It's a whole new area for the restaurant industry.
That's right, and I think to me there's two parts to this. One is, so we're on site on a site in Chelsea on King's Road, and it's a particularly small corner site. We love the site, but we can't build that entrance, that second entrance. So we're now thinking about, a sort of canopy technology in the window. So how do we keep the riders necessarily outside so they don't interact with customers inside? That's tricky, because we try to treat the riders as if they're our own team members. So we don't want to make them stand outside in January when it's snowing, but there has to be a realization that this is a restaurant. But then the technology that supports what they do is changing quickly. And I was chatting to an Uber driver last night about, he said in the last 12 months, the way they're paid has changed. And this relates to the riders, because he said, we used to get a flat 25% of your fare, that came to me. He said, now they sent an email out, which I'm sure was all well intended, that said, we're not taking a commission from you. What you see when you accept that ride is all yours. But you may now pay £20 for an Uber ride, but only £8 is going to the driver. But they've accepted that, so they know that. So there's transparency there, but actually the margins for Uber have massively increased as they've evolved, and they need to do that. With the riders, for us, there's been changes on the platforms. So when you've ordered your Deliveroo at home, you may have, a year ago, that food was ordered from the restaurant and it came to you. And you may have paid a delivery fee, a service fee, a tip, the price of the food. Now what will happen is you'll be charged a fee if you want that to come straight to you. And if you don't, that rider might go to 2 places to drop off the food before it comes to you, which hugely impacts the quality of our product getting to the end user. But of course, when you enter negotiations with a partner, you don't know that's going to happen. And inevitably, as these 3 marketplace partners, who are all pretty damn good at what they do, have tried to turn a profit, they have to find new revenue streams. And the pressure comes back on the operator to say, well, you need to be more price parity with your... The average restaurant's charging about 15 to 20% more on a platform than they are eat-in. And the ones who aren't have got actually a higher price eat-in than probably they should. That would be my view. Sure that I'll get 5 emails later today about that. But I think what we've got to remember is, as a customer at home, I think people use platforms like this for convenience. That's my firm belief. So I think people are okay paying a little bit more, but there's a tipping point, and I think they're all quite nervous about where that tipping point is, as we are. And as probably we talked about a couple of weeks ago, it's really about how you partner with these guys and girls, because there's no point falling out with them, because no one wins. If we can work in partnership, as we do exclusively with Deliveroo, and just do what we can do to impact that rider experience, how can we use the technology better, how we can get the reporting more insightful, because there's reams of data, but what are the 1 or 2 things we want a manager or a managing partner, ops manager, to do with that each week? And just to bring that to a close, the realization I had 6 months ago is we're not really experts at this, and we're currently at final interview to bring in quite a well-paid Deliveroo managing partner, so somebody who can focus purely on the data and the experience on the platform, because at the moment it's part of the job of 7 or 8 people, and that's the learning for restaurants. We need to be super focused on this and make sure that we get the best out of it, because if you cut out anybody at Deliveroo or the other 2 protagonists, I feel that there will be customers we're servicing who don't come in the pizzeria, and that's changed. That never used to be the case 5, 6 years ago. So we might be interacting only with customers now and in the future, virtually really. So packaging, rider experience, the quality of the radius. If we can have that radius right, which is not within our control, all of these things will add to a better experience at home. And there's kind of nothing off the table. I imagine if we did this in a year, I would have another list of 5 things. But if you approach it from a partnership perspective and you're a bit pragmatic, then the way I sleep at night is you'll probably be a bit better tomorrow than you are today, and that's kind of all you can do.
Great. I'm just wondering whether we should ask the audience whether they've got any questions, or
why not?
Are you happy with that?
Please.
Anybody got questions? Okay, maybe we can take a couple of questions together, and then we can answer them. So there's this gentleman over here, and this gentleman in the front.
Hi, Gavin. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Right. So mainly for you, in terms of, so with these delivery partners then, do you think it's worthwhile going forward?
Can you say that a bit louder? Sorry.
So with these delivery partners like Deliveroo or Uber Eats, etc., is it still worthwhile given the experience that it hampers, plus the margins it's costing you, in addition to the driver experience and then the customer? Because I know I use a lot of this, and what was affordable at one point in time is now service fees, extra charge, plus premium membership, etc., doesn't seem to give me the same value, at least as a customer. I want to know the restaurateur's view.
Okay, and let's take this question here as well. And if there's one more as well.
Mine was just a follow-up question. You mentioned earlier on about you're bringing in 3 or 4 new pieces of technology. Just wondering if you could say what they were.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's your questions.
So to answer your question, I think, yes, it's still worth it. I think the reality is, I think the number of occasions being serviced by delivery aggregators right now is down. Depends who you ask, but maybe 4, maybe 8%. So there's less occasions being serviced in an environment where they're trying to start or continue to turn a profit. So we have to understand that they need to make money. I think the point on convenience is key. Like, I think customers seek convenience. Why would you order on Deliveroo and pay 20, 30, 40% more than driving to the restaurant if it wasn't about convenience? Notwithstanding, your point on value is really important. It's just my personal view on value is, maybe 100K for a Ferrari, not that I own one, just to be clear, is probably good value. £15 for a McDonald's Big Mac might not be good value. So it's about that intersection of quality and price is where you get, to some extent, where the value is for us. And I think we charge £10 to £15 for a pizza. So for us, it's about doubling down on the quality, looking really closely at what we sell when we sell it, and making sure we work hard and put a lot of pressure on. We do with Deliveroo to say, look, you need to be really careful about your fees. If you think the value proposition is my problem, I think it's our problem. And it's our opportunity, actually, because I think if you get that experience faster, if you get the technology to work to get the rider there quicker, if people are in 5 years waiting 15 minutes, not 45 minutes for their food on a Friday, I think they're more likely to use it. If the packaging is better, so the quality of the pizza is better. And as the whole market grows, which I think it will, I think this will not go away, then the economies of scale there should help each of those partners. But it's probably harder to turn the same margins than you would have done 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, as the size we're at now, we've negotiated better rates, but I think, not to give away too much, we probably give away what we've saved in-app spending on ads, in brand campaigns with delivery. And you could, and I did for a while, argue that, well, we just won't engage with it. Because discounting as part of our business is just not what we do. I think it gives people the wrong idea of our value and what we should pay. But on occasions, in a targeted way, it can work. I think some of our competitors and brands that you will have heard of, I mean, they discount at 20, 30% 5 days a week. But I think it's a hole that a lot of brands got into 10 years ago. And if I were to name those brands, you'd be like, oh yeah, where are they now? So I think we've got to be really careful of that. I am also concerned about the number of fees. It would be really great if it was just, there's the price. That's probably a question for one of those guys. I would probably prefer that too. But I think their response would be, you pay a small delivery fee if you're only ordering one pizza 3 miles away, whereas if you order 4, you're not. If you're a subscriber, the Deliveroo Diamonds program is 20 quid a month. It's expensive, I think. But actually, there's a lot of benefits there. And if you are a loyal, raving fan and you seek experience, not just value, which is what they're leaning into, it's probably for you. So I think there's not one simple answer to that question, but yes, I think delivery's here to stay. I think it's something we should double down on and focus on. We sell pizza. It would be pretty remiss of me to say we shouldn't deliver pizza. We've now written 4 books on why pizza's so important. I mean, everybody loves pizza. It doesn't matter what shape, size, age, race, gender, country. People love pizza. And I think if we can get that to more people, and our brand purpose, for those of you who want to know, is about making people happy one pizza at a time. So actually for us it is, we want to drive revenue to open more sites and do more things, but how do we drive that experience? How do we do unique things? How do we sell a pizza on the platform that you can only get on the platform? So there's many, many parts to that question, but I am positive and optimistic and want to work in partnership rather than against them.
Great. Can I
Yes.
leap in here? Because I think we're reaching the end of our time. It's
Yep.
been great talking to you. Thank you very much. And we haven't even talked about the new tech, which is drones and delivery vehicles, which are used in certain circumstances in campuses in America. Grubhub have an operation. Grubhub, a subsidiary of Just Eat in the US. There's companies like Flytex and Avride providing real facilities which are in operation in, particularly in America, but in other countries as well. Whether we'll see that in London, I don't think we ever will because it's far too crowded, but maybe in other places. So that's the future, or one of the futures of tech in delivery. Anyway, Gavin, I think we've said all we can in 25 minutes. So
We did well.
Thank you, everybody, on behalf of Gavin and
Thank you.
myself.